Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Many thanks for your time in joining us today for the Mastering Debt Management with Fairways Debt webinar. Today's webinar will be conducted by myself, Elliot Sal, a key account manager here at Altus Group, who works exclusively with debt teams across our real estate and non-real estate clients. Joining me is Benoit Desmarais, a senior real estate solutions expert who will take us through a demonstration of Fairways Debt later into the presentation, highlighting key workflows and where we believe our clients are finding most value in the system to supplement their current in-house debt management processes. So the agenda for today, we've already done some introductions, but like I said, we're going to go through to a demonstration. And then what's key here is that we're going to have a Q&A in the chat. So we're going to be releasing some poll questions throughout the presentation. And yeah, we invite you to also ask for any questions that you have about my presentation or during the actual demonstration of Fairways Debt itself. Please do feel free. So before we start off with the demonstration of Fairways Debt, I will just give you a quick background of Altus Group and who we are. Chances are, if you are sitting on this webinar, you'll know who we are already, but we're a global real estate consulting and software company that provides valuation data analytics and advisory, mainly to the commercial real estate industry. Today, we'll be focusing on the software side. So on the right-hand side here, you can see that Fairways Debt is sitting on top of the stack for the purposes of this demonstration and presentation. But it's likely you would have heard of Argus Enterprise or perhaps would have used Argus Enterprise previously, as that really is one of our sort of flagship products. We touch on every part of the CRE process, so from real estate valuation to data plays that we're currently making around fund benchmarks, which we provide to various parts of the market. But it's really this software stack that pieces and holds everything here together. Here are just some high-level stats surrounding Fairways Debt. So Altus Group purchased a company called Finance Active in 2021, and with that, we brought over 20 years of debt management experience and software development into the business. Now, as we move further into 2025, all of these numbers that we see in front of you, we would expect to increase as we invest more into the debt management solutions that we provide, but also as we see, hopefully, the debt market sort of turn around and become a bit more bullish as we move into 2025. But the key takeaway here is that we're trusted by lots of clients right across Europe. So we look at all sorts of different debt structures, and yeah, we're just highly trusted. Now on to Fairways Debt itself. So yeah, like I've said before, we're a leading provider of debt intelligence for equity investors, banks and corporates. In terms of this debt monitoring piece, so you can really centralize all of your debt instruments. So this includes bonds, loans, credit facilities, all of that good stuff. We allow you to stay up to date in more ways than one, really, through our sort of calendar functionality. Internally, different teams can make sure that they don't miss any deadlines around reporting or even deadlines around certain bond maturities, certain covenant metrics, all of that important stuff. We also allow you to conduct reporting, so we can do analysis right across the top of the portfolio, right down to individual debt lines. We can do reporting on any hedging instruments that you may employ in the business, so any swaps, derivatives, etc. And then finally, which is super important as well, we provide assistance to any of our clients, so pre and post implementation. So this is really around making sure that any data that you'd like to use in the system, any deadlines you want to push into the system, obviously it's important that we make sure these are input correctly. And on top of that, any basic questions, you'll have access to our support team, along with any more complex questions, whether it's around some sort of compliance report, IFRS reporting, and things like that too. And now I will pass over to Benoit for the demonstration. Yeah, Benoit, over to you.
So we have been in business for 20 years. Our key DNA for the software has been from the inception of the software to be fully SaaS web-based. So what you need is just a login and a password. And once you connect, you straight arrive on what we call the dashboard. So the dashboard is like a one page where you can have various widgets with all the key information that you would like to see as a user on the software. So for example, here I've got my key numbers. So the base currency for that portfolio is euro. I've got the key numbers with like the outstanding balance. I've got the capital commitment, the average rate on my overall portfolio. Then I've got some market data information. I've got my debt maturity profile, a profile for my interest expense as well. What are my liabilities by borrower, by lender? All those widgets can be created, customized, and adapted to your own very needs so that you can see the relevant information as a user on your side. What's really interesting is that we will be adapting the software, even if it's off the shelf. We will be adapting it to your structure, to your own organizational needs. By that, I mean, we can replicate any structure you have. So if you're thinking about funds, business units, SPVs, assets, if you're thinking about a region, anything, basically, we can recreate it in the software. So at the moment, I'm sitting at the holding level, but I can create, like, for example, in that one, I've got like a fund in EMEA with two assets, one in the UK, one in France, and one in Stockholm. Then I've got one in a fund in APAC with two assets in Australia and in Hong Kong. And what's really interesting is that I can literally jump into like the fund, and automatically all my numbers will be updated. So my borrowers will be only Stockholm, France, and the UK. And I can do the same thing going to APAC if I want, or I can directly jump to one asset. So you can see I'm only exposed to one asset in the UK. So the interesting bit is that we can replicate your structure, and you can give access right to different people within your organization so that they can see only what they need to see and where they need to work to make sure that the collaboration is exactly right. And then you are sitting at the top and having access to all the data that you need. So let me jump back to the holding. What's really important to understand is that Fairways Debt is connected to the financial markets. And by connecting to the financial market, I mean we are retrieving various data providers' information, such as Eonia, Euribor, etc. We are aggregating all that position and pushing them to the software so that we can calculate all the cash flow as of today and in the future for all your instruments, either debt or derivatives. Because we are using a lot of market data to calculate your cash flow, it is really important for us to display this information to you. So on the top left here, if I just go back, there is an app chooser, same thing as on your iPhone. You just click on it, and here you can see the various applications that we are making available to you as a client. The first one is the market data app. Maybe I will pause here for the first question of the poll. The question would be, how do you retrieve forward curve, for example, to predict your cash flows on all your instruments? Could it be that with a data vendor, you've got a license? From partners, you're just calling your bank. If you're using internet, you're just searching for the forward curve on internet, or you just simply don't care about predicting your cash flow and your forward curve. Right now, let me show you how we do things on our site. So if I click on the app market data, I just simply open the app. And then here I will be on the dashboard where I've got key things that I would like to see as a user. I've got some interest rates, I've got the swaps curve, I've got the IBOR fixings, some Forex as well, because we can support any sort of currencies across the globe, any sort of indexes as well. We all have them on the software. If I open my Euribor, for example, I can see my Euribor variation over the course of 1 week, 1 month, or even a year. I have the data history, of course, so I can see the curve. I can zoom on a bit of the curve, or I can just have the whole curve. I can compare it with any other curve that I've got in my portfolio. So I'm comparing to Saron, for example, here. And then I have access to the forward curve. What's really important is that you can download via Excel this forward curve to work on it on your site. And then even more important, you can go back in time on those forward curve or even the historical data. So it means that if you want to study the forward curve at the end of last quarter, last year for presentation during your annual presentation to your board or whatsoever, this is something that you can do directly on the software. Then once we have been working on our market data of Forex and interest rates, we checked how is the market, then we can literally go to the heart of the engine, to the debt and derivatives. So the debt and derivative app is going to be the place where we are tracking the debt position for you. And this is the time for the second poll question. What system do you use to track your debt position on your site? Is it via Excel? Do you have like a debt management system such as Fairways? Or you've got like a module, a simple debt module from your TMS or ERP, or simply you don't track your debt position at all. Right now, let me move to how we track debt position on our site. So I will just simply click on debt and derivatives. And this is where we are going to be storing all your position. You can see here in blue, I've got all my loan or mortgages. And in green, I've got the derivatives. So you can see I've got a lot of loans with cap associated to them. And you can see here, we can see the currency. So I've got Aussie dollar, GBP, Hong Kong dollar, euro, Swedish krona, etc. This is just an example of a demo account, but then I can move to another one where I've got USD, Canadian dollar, etc. We've got all the currencies and we can support most of them. If I quickly jump onto a euro example, for example, of Rue Notre Dame, French assets, I will just quickly click on it and simply get access to the loan itself. So we are providing you with various things on the loan. The main important one is the loan abstract. So this is the characteristics of the transaction. You can see here, I've got like, what is the index? This one is floating based on Euribor plus a margin and the day count conversion and what are the fixing calendars. Then of course, you've got the start date, maturity date, etc. You've got the amount, who is the borrower, who is the lender. Then just below, you've got the custom attributes. So the custom attributes are basically all the attributes that you would like to add as a user on top of the mortgages or the loans to add some classification, add some key things that you would like to be using across the software. So in that example, I created some like an asset category. What is the asset name? The region, if there is like an asset manager, if there is an internal ref. Bearing in mind that all those attributes can be reused across the overall software for filtering, slicing, and dicing the information. They are not static, they are dynamic. They can be reused everywhere. I will show you a bit later. Just below are the pool members. So the pool members, it's because this one has got multiple lenders. I can define who are my lenders. So in that case, I've got CMCIC, Crédit Agricole, and Société Générale as the three lenders. CMCIC is the lead lender with 50%, and the rest are at 25%. Meaning that we can calculate your exposure to all your banks in one single place and super quickly. So if there is a bank collapsing, I don't know, in California, for example, then you can calculate your exposure to your all banks in just a click. And just below is the cash flow calculation. So this is literally the heart of what we do. We are taking into account every single parameter that you gave to us to calculate all the cash flow. So we've got the interest calculation, the principal, and what are the fees. On the left here, you can see we've got green dot is because it's known payments. This one is based on Euribor, so we know the fixings on all those dates, so we can tell you what are the interest to be paid. In orange is because it's estimated payment. This is estimated payment that we are doing based on the forward curve that we are storing on the software, refresh daily. So here you can see that we are predicting the amount of interest to be paid on the overall loan. You can see we are doing fees calculation as well, or even principal. The principal is changing. You would tell me, how do you do that? It's really simple. You just go at the top. There is the life cycle place. So the life cycle is going to be the place where you can store ad hoc events on top of the loan or the mortgage. So the repayment, for example, I'm repaying 2 million on that one on the 1st of January 23. And because I repaid 2 million, I managed to negotiate a smaller margin with my bank. So on the 1st of January 23 as well, I reduced my margin of the Euribor to 225 with the same day count conversion. And everything is going to be taken into account automatically on the calculation, and then we recalculate everything for you based on those events. We can do the same thing as deferment periods. If you've got refinancing options and you've got extension options, we can store them as well on the software. Same thing with the fees. We just store them over here where you can have upfront fees, arrangements fees, legal fees, maintenance fees, usage and non-usage fees. If it's facilities and where you can do drawings, we can store them over here and calculate them automatically. And the last tab, really important, is the hedging. So this one is floating. So I've got a cap on this one. So I've got a cap on top of my floating loan, where basically you can see that there has been a strike on my cap because the rate should have been 6.21 when actually I paid 5.8%. How we work is that we create the derivative and then we associate the derivative, the right portion of the derivative to the right portion of the loan. So it can be multiple derivatives with just one loan or multiple loans with just one derivative, so that you can do your hedging policy as well on the software. Last but not least, we've got a few tricks on our slide as well here. So we've got the document section, so we can store any type of documents on top of this particular loan, where you've got, for example, the payment notice, the loan agreement that you can store either physically by dropping the file to us, or you can just put like the link to your OneDrive system if you've got one, so that you can retrieve the folder pretty easily. And then last but not least, we've got the custom events. So in the same way we've got the custom attributes over here, we've got the custom events. So this is events that you can create on top of your loans. Like, for example, if you want to do a quarterly business review on that particular loan. So like, tell me every quarter, I've got a quarterly business review to do, then automatically we will create that event for you and it will appear in the calendar section. The calendar section, I will just open it here, is going to be the place where we are storing all the events on your overall portfolio, right? You can see on the left side, we've got the general types events. This is events that Fairways is taking care of creating from the term sheet, from the events, the basic events from the loan. And then you can see you've got your custom types events that will appear over here. Sorry. What's really interesting to see is that it allows you to stay on top of your deadline. So you can be alerted with just the bell on the top here. You can create alerts to remind you a week, a month, or 6 months before if a payment, a rate revision, a fixing, a quarterly business review is coming, so that you receive an alert on your Outlook to say, hey, come to the software and check this event is coming. Even more, we've got a workflow system. So if I take this payment, for example, here on that loan, I can see I've got the details of the payment to be done. And then what I can do, we give you the possibility to create a workflow system where you can define task A, B, and C per event and assign them to people within your team. So in that example, I've got no one assigned, so I can assign it to George. And George will be in charge of verifying the numbers received from the lenders, send the invoice to accounting for processing, and then close the payment on the system. And then he can simply click on all the tasks and say the task will be completed. And in the compliance calendar section, you will have access to all the tasks that are assigned to you or within your team. The idea is that if anyone leaves on holidays or leaves the company, you can reassign the task and you're not missing any deadline. This brings us to our third question, which is, how do you make sure you are staying on top of your deadlines? Is it by creating alerts on your Outlook calendars and maintaining them? Do you rely on the master data from Excel and check it on a daily basis? Or just someone in your team is in charge of that? Right now, if we take a step back, we have been working on the dashboard. So we've seen an overview of our portfolio. Then we went to the market data app where we have seen how is the market at the moment. Then we checked our portfolio. We had a look at the calendar to stay on top of the deadlines. What we offer you on top as well is, of course, analysis and reporting. So the idea that we give you the ability to perform analysis and reporting, not only on the existing portfolio, but even more simulating transaction. And how do we simulate transaction? It's pretty easy. I just go back to my portfolio. Here, this is my live portfolio. If I just want to go to Great Portland Street, I can only see the mortgages and the derivatives from that particular asset. And what I can do is create a transaction. So let's say you're studying a new financing, for example, of a standard loan. You can create a standard loan pretty easily. You just type which currency you want to use, with the borrower, who are the lenders, etc. Indexation. You just like the basic term sheet. You apply it, and automatically this new loan is going to go into the draft section. So the draft section is a place where you can play, it's like your pipeline. It's a place where you can play with a number, like a sandbox. You can play with the numbers without touching your live portfolio that stays intact by itself. And then once you're ready, like if you're on the underwriting stage, what you can do is you can send it to a simulated portfolio. And simulated portfolio is going to be a place, so let me move back to the holding to have a bit more product. This is the simulated portfolio. For example, I've got a simulation for a new funding for an asset in the UK, right? And then this one, if I want to study the impact, I can literally go to my app, analysis and reporting over here. And here we are providing you with two things. The first one are set analysis. So this tab here, this is like set analysis. This is just a few examples, but we've got dozens of them. Let me show you, for example, the interest expense. So the interest expense is classic. You can then change it if you want to see quarterly, monthly, annually, etc. The number of years you would like to see. Then from here, I've got a graphical view with the amount to be paid, and then I've got the table view. You can export the graph directly via image, or you can export the tab directly via Excel. Then what's really important here is that you can call those simulated deals. So I've got my new funding for my assets in the UK. What I can do is I can call that simulation to my live portfolio and study the impact. And automatically, I will see the impact on my interest expense from that simulated portfolio. And even more, because this one is based on, is floating, this new funding is floating, then I can shock the market. So you can do either like a step rate, or you can shift by 100 bips to study the impact. And automatically, all the calculation and the modeling and in the background will be recalculated with a shock of 100 bips on the overall cash flow as of today, and on the future curves as well for your cash flow. Same thing if you want to apply a FX rate scenario, if you want to apply a dedicated number on the FX rate, this is something you can do directly over here. So it's a really powerful tool to be able to study and quickly come to some conclusions to provide to your underwriting committee if you need to take a quick decision on a transaction. Importantly, this is the date over here, but you can go back in time. So we are going to be keeping the historical values of your portfolio within the software. So if you perform that analysis at the end of last quarter or last year, you will retrieve all the historical loans that you had in your portfolio at that particular time. So this is set analysis. But you will tell me we need to have the flexibility because this is set analysis, but we've got dedicated reporting to do depending on which committee we are going on, if our investors are asking for things, if my management is asking for something, etc. So we heard that, and what we came up with is the reporting section. So the reporting section is a place where we are going to be creating and replicating as much as we can the reports that you are usually doing on your site. And on top of that, we will be giving you and training you on how to use the reporting section. So if I just quickly show you, it's just like you add a report, can be periodic, can be spot, can be a scheduled report. If I could quickly create a spot one, then you can see I've got various fields that you can choose. The reporting section is basically pivot table from Excel with live data from your portfolio, right? And remember, we created those custom attributes in the past where you had the asset name and asset category. You can reuse them over here. And then you can select the fields that you would like to see with the borrower, with the counterparty, any sort of field that you would like to see. And then you can create and be creative on retrieving all the information that you would like to see. A quick and simple example is I would like to know my asset allocation. Okay, what is the amount per asset I've got in terms of debt and derivatives? So I just quickly create this one, and then you can see I've got all my assets listed for my overall holding. And then I can see the outstanding balance at the end of the day for that one. Same thing if I want to study my cost of debt by counterparty. So I would like to know from 2023 to 2025 for 2 years, how much am I going to be paying my banks, right? And directly we calculate everything. So for example, for Citibank, I'm going to be paying 1 million of interest over the period, 5K of fees. and the average rate is 5%, 5.45%. And we can go really crazy in terms of creating as many reports as we need. So if you want to study the type of assets, what is my split per industrial, mixed use, or office? This is something that you simply create and you have at hand, and you can export directly to Excel. And same thing as the analysis, you can go back in time and study the analysis at the same way. So this is the analysis and reporting. So here we have been covering most of the needs that we can have basically on dealing with our debts on a daily basis. You will tell me, and Elliot talked about it a bit earlier, potentially we've got covenants, right? The covenants are a big part of what we need to do on the commercial real estate business. And we came up with a solution that needs to be explained to you a bit more deeply, because as I'm pretty sure you're more aware than me, covenants are really complicated. So we came up with a covenant module. If I show you on that demo account, here you can see there is a widget on my dashboard. It's the same thing. There's another dashboard with this one based on GBP. You can see various curves. And then here I've got a widget for the covenants. You can see the green scheme here. So what we came up with is being able to create the formula for every single asset and defining the threshold for every single asset. So if I open Monroe Street directly, and I sort by covenants, here I can see I've got a debt yield for Monroe Street and an LTV. So you will tell me, okay, LTV is good, cool that you've got this module, but how do you retrieve the data? Because we need the asset value, for example, to calculate the covenants. So what we do is that you will need to be pushing to us the metrics that we are missing to calculate the thing. We've got all the debt metrics that we need to calculate the covenant. You just need to push the NOI, the asset value, and all the other ones. Don't worry, it's not manual. It's like a massive batch Excel updates where you push the data to us, and then we take care of calculating and doing it in the past and in the future, so that you can predict where your covenant is going to be over here. And if, for example, I open my LTV, just to show you the last bit, I open my LTV. Here I can see my actual value is 43.28%, which is below the expected value of 45%. I've defined the threshold. I've defined what is the formula associated. It's a percentage, and I even have the verbiage. And more importantly, I've got the publication to say, okay, from that particular date, publish it annually and remind me 1 month before, so that you get a reminder in your Outlook 1 month before that you need to publish that particular covenant. And that's pretty much it. I can talk about it for ages, but I think we might be pausing here. And if you've got any more interest, maybe contact us. Elliot, back to you.
Please don't hesitate to contact myself, Benoit, or any of the team if you wish to discuss Fairways Debt any further, and how it could help to supplement your current debt management processes. We're also going to be at MIPIM. We're going to be on stand R9ET. Ping us on the chat if you'd like to have a one-to-one session at MIPIM. You can also email us on contact@altusgroup.com, and you can see my email address and Benoit's email address there. Also note that you will be able to rewatch this webinar on demand too, and it will be sent to you via emails that you can access. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you all.